Hey, welcome back, friends. Rhett Lewis, Bucky Brooks back here with you. Another episode of Move the Sticks. And, of course, Bucky always keeping the pen to the notepad. The Scouts Notebook has been open, as it is each and every week. And, Bucky, I know this week you are looking at the NFC North, which coming into week 7 was the only division in football where every team was above 500. They are still that way going into week 8 in the NFL. What were some of your big takeaways in that piece, which, by the way, you can find on NFL.com and then search Bucky Brooks?
So, Red, like here's the tough thing about the NFC North. All these teams are good. They're good in a variety of different ways, and they're really balanced in terms of how they're winning games. It's not just the offense leading. It's not the defense doing it. They're all able to play complementary football, which makes it a very, very tough race to handicap. In my mind, I still think the Detroit Lions are the class of the division, just in terms of their explosive offense, the way Aaron Glenn has this defense playing. And I know they lost Aiden Hutchinson, but to me, they are lights out, and they continue to be. The Minnesota Vikings right after that, the combination of Kevin O'Connell and Brian Flores, the way they are able to lead their units and complement one another. So you got Sam Darnold playing at a high level. It was a close loss to the Detroit Lions, and Brian Flores and what they're able to do defensively, just the different coverage, the different pre-snap disguises, all of those things really test the quarterback and the play caller. That gives them a chance to be there in the end. And then I would say the Packers are the last of what I would say the contenders for the division crown. The Packers, Jeff Hadley, when he took the job as defensive coordinator, said he wanted the Packers to lead the league in two things: turnovers and effort. They're already leading the league in turnovers, 17 takeaways. They're getting it done. And the effort, man, they're playing so hard on defense that it has really allowed Matt LaFleur to kind of change speeds on the offense. They don't have to be as aggressive. They can run the football. They can be a little more patient and deliberate. Just a really good team. I like what the Bears are doing. Just feel like they're a little young in terms of quarterback, Caleb Williams being able to get it done. But having watched them up close and personal in London, their defense attacks the ball. And so they always have a puncher's chance because they go after the ball. Their turnover obsession is real. And if you don't take care of it, they're going to knock it out.
Yeah, you got that right. So, I mean, the Bears sitting here riding a 3-game heater, coming off their bye week, going into the Commanders game here this week against the team that may or may not have Jaden Daniels, which is going to be something to kind of follow with that matchup. Would be great to see both those guys get after it in this game. Number 1 overall versus number 2 overall at quarterback in this game. But the Lions and Vikings matchup this past week, I thought was such a fun one, right? It kind of reminded me a little bit in like a college comparison to what we saw from Oregon and Ohio State. Like two really good teams. No one really dominated the other. I mean, that Lions Vikings game was so even. I said this on the Monday recap pod. Like, you look, the yards per play, the plays in general, like the balance, rushing and passing. Turnovers were very minimal in the game. I mean, it came down to a couple of penalties, really, and then Jahmyr Gibbs making guys miss. Like, Jahmyr Gibbs forced 8 missed tackles in that game to lead the league this week. Like, that is, they just have so many different ways, and we talked about this, also this week, that they can beat you. Like, you've got to deal with, although now Jamison Williams has that suspension situation kind of looming there with the 2 games for the performance enhancing substances. But I mean, when he's going, you've got to respect the deep threat. Amon-Ra St. Brown can beat you anywhere on the field. And then Sam Laporta, always a threat. And then you've got the physical run game element with Montgomery. And then Jahmyr Gibbs is just like a lightning rod out there on the field. Like, he could take it the distance from anywhere, any way, run game, pass game. Jared Goff is probably the most efficient passer in football this year.
On fire.
On fire. I mean,
three straight games, passer rating over 140, something ridiculous.
And he had 88. Completion percentage was 88 in this game. But then you look across the sideline, and Sam Darnold completion percentage was 81 in this game. I mean, he's making good throws. Obviously, the interception he wants back in that game. But I look at this thing as the next time we see these two teams, it's going to be another one of these fights. And you might even see them again in the playoffs, the way this thing works. If Chicago can hold up, you could see every team in this division make the playoffs. It's just kind of one of those feelings that you have. But when I go to the Packers, if they can limit Jordan Love's turnovers, which again, are kind of popping up. Like he's got 8 picks, and remember he missed 2 games. And we're sitting here through 7 already. That's more than 1 a game, almost 2 a game in games that he has started. If they could take that out of his game, they are absolutely going to challenge the Lions to win the division. And so that's otherwise, like, that team is really dang good.
They are good. They're well constructed, Rhett. Like, you just think about the amount of first rounders they committed to the defense, the way they can get after it on defense. Jeff Hadley has given them really a much needed boost in terms of like just making sure that the scheme matches the personnel. They're playing fast. They're getting after it. Xavier McKinney is the best free agent pickup that we may have seen in the last 4 or 5 years in terms of like getting 5 picks in 5 straight games, coming on board, giving them a deep center fielder player. And even though they didn't get any turnovers or takeaways this last game, they are just always on it. And for a team that doesn't have an established number 1 receiver, but they do it collectively, and they have a dominant running back in Josh Jacobs, it is a very, very difficult matchup for anybody to face them. And if not for the turnover issues that Jordan Love can have, particularly coming off the injury, why wouldn't you write them in as the team to beat in the NFC North? I mean, they have it all. That's why it's going to be a really fun race to watch down the stretch.
All right, so how are we handicapping this thing? The way I look at it, I mean, you've got Minnesota's the only team that has played – Packers played Detroit in 2 weeks. Thanks, Nabil, for that. That'll be a great one to watch. The Lions, that was their first division game, that win over the Vikings. Vikings have played 2. They split 1-1. Packers have yet to win a game in the division. Bears have yet to play a division game. So I think those things are going to kind of come – they might really come into play here down the stretch. So these division games are going to be important. How do you see it if you had to go 1 through 4 at this point?
If I had to go through 1 through 4, I would say, as I talked about, I believe Detroit and Minnesota are still the class of division. The Packers are dangerous, but I worry about it's funny, like I worry about Jordan Love stuff, but Sam Darnold doesn't have any evidence that he's given us that he can kind of handle the pressure playing down the stretch. But I'm going to bank on Kevin O'Connell getting them right. And then the Chicago Bears bringing up the rear. The thing is, 3 of these teams are going to go to the postseason. They're going to earn playoff berths. A lot of it for some of these teams, when do you play your division games, and are you healthy when you play them? We talk about the Packers playing the Lions in 2 weeks. That's another pivotal game, another critical game already on the stretch down.
Yeah, I think we're going to learn a lot about the Packers in 2 weeks when they play the Lions. But I think as of right now, I would stay with the Lions at the top. I might put the Packers in at number 2, the Vikings at number 3, but I think that's going to be it might be a 1 game in the win column that separates those 2 teams. And then the Bears, I think could challenge for a wild card spot. But I think at this point, there's no shame in finishing last in this division. You might be 3, 4, 5 games over 500 when it's all said and done. So
that is so true, because it's going to be a very competitive division. But I can tell you, man, I've been watching the Bears team. They certainly don't feel like a cellar dweller. No. And then you think about the rest of the teams in the division. You're right. It's going to be about execution. It's going to be about toughness, which team can finish it down the stretch.
Okay, time for hot or not when we come back, and we'll get into that here. Look at some of the players who are really heating up here as we get into the midway point of the season, and we'll do that right after this quick break. All right, we're going to focus on the positive. Time for hot or not, brought to you by Wasabi, and looking at some of the players, coaches, indoor plays that have caught our attention. And I think for me, I think this week you got to start with Lamar Jackson. I don't know that there is a quarterback. I mean, Jared Goff certainly is putting his name in that conversation. But the way that Lamar played in this game with 5 touchdowns, 5 incompletions, and led the Ravens to 41 points in a win over the Bucs on Monday night, it's impossible not to view him as scalding hot. I mean, might be outpacing what we saw from him as an MVP player a year ago.
Yeah, like DJ. I mean, Rhett. Here's the funny thing about the conversation for Lamar Jackson MVP. He's playing way better than he played last year.
There it is.
I mean, like, it's not even close. It's almost like night and day in terms of like his efficiency, his effectiveness running this offense. Yes, it's year 2 with him and Todd Monken, but he's playing at a different level. So if he can win an MVP, when we say he brought his B game, he has to get the MVP when he's playing at his A game. That's what it looks like. And there are other guys, because I think you can throw Jared Goff in there. We talked about his efficiency and the way that this team looks, having a passer rating over 140 in 3 straight games. All of that stuff matters. But, man, when you just do the eyeball test, the way Lamar Jackson is doing it, it just makes it very, very hard to say, I'm going to give the MVP award to somebody else.
I not right now. I mean, and then, Jared Goff, hot, if you're wondering what the categorization was on his play so far this season and in this last week against the Vikings. The fact that he was able to know exactly where he wanted to go with the football and execute it like 100% of the time in the first half when he was 12 for 12 against a Brian Flores defense that has been wreaking havoc on the league for the previously undefeated Minnesota Vikings. That to me has Jared Goff 100% in the MVP conversation with what he's doing. I mean, against that defense, which, can change up the looks and bring pressure and, make you question where you want to go with the ball, like as good as any defense in football right now. That to me was that was kind of eye-opening.
Yeah, I mean, it is very eye-opening. It's telling, and it's one of the things that we look for at this time of year. It's early. Things will continue to kind of crystallize. But I'm going to say this, and talking about all the great candidates that we talked about at MVP, I still think it's important that I talk about one who could jump back in the race. The trade of the Buffalo Bills executed to get Amari Cooper could bring Josh Allen right back in the conversation. We've seen enough hero ball from Josh Allen to understand how special he is. Bringing in a number one playmaker on the perimeter to essentially replace Stephon Diggs, to give him a security blanket, someone that's tough, dependable, reliable on the perimeter. That might be just what Josh Allen needs to finally win his first one if the numbers are right and if the Bills, it looks like they're going to scoop through the AFC East and win another title. If he puts up some numbers that are just eerily similar to what Lamar did last year, I think you might have to give it to him.
Oh, baby. Yeah. I mean, if we want to talk about hot or not here, let's say those 2 wide receiver trades, Amari Cooper to the Bills, hot. Devontae Adams to the Jets,
not.
Why?
Not.
Why?
Well, here's what I was saying. I said this when they made the trade. Red, normally when guys get older, they don't play better. So now you have 2 guys that you're counting on to kind of turn back the clock and be what they were in 2016, 17, and 18, and Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams. The odds are against that coming back. It's hard to recreate that magical moment that they had in Green Bay. It also shifts the pecking order of the playmakers with the Jets. Part of the excitement that we had with the Jets were the emergence of the young stars, Breece Hall. We thought Braylon Allen would play well, and he has shown in flashes. Garrett Wilson being able to do it. When now Devontae Adams comes over, he's besties with the quarterback. The ball now goes over his direction as opposed to the other side. That's problematic. It's problematic for the growth and development of the team. And it's one of the reasons why the Jets will continue to struggle because, look, man, I don't think it's all harmonious in the locker room when you execute a trade of that nature with a young, emerging number one receiver ready to take on more responsibility.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. The quote from Aaron Rodgers in the postgame news conference talking about we didn't have the juice. He could tell pregame that they didn't have juice, and he was like, I live for these games on Sunday night, only game in town, prime time.
That's crazy.
It felt like a joyless team in a lot of ways. I mean, I didn't see a smile on Garrett Wilson's face at all.
Because, man, like so much of this is, and like players are funny, right? And no one for the Jets will acknowledge this, but I would say there has to be some annoyance for the teammates outside of the Packers bros that Aaron Rodgers has come in and basically reshaped the roster with his buddies. And you've been around it enough to know, Rhett, when you do the eyeball test, because we all do it in every field, there's certain people that you hear about being good and you look around like,
yeah,
I don't know. And so with Devontae Adams coming on, and even though they may revere him for what he was as a top 5 receiver, if they look at him and he doesn't look head and shoulders above what was already in the wide receiver room, now you have an issue, because if we talk about in the locker room, it's a meritocracy. The best players get the most opportunities. That might not be true. And if Aaron Rodgers is the one behind it, it creates a subtle divide. If he also is not playing at the level that everyone talked about, but yet he has all the juice when it comes to shaping the roster.
Yeah, that's look, it's a tough spot, and that's look, the Jets are in a tough spot at this point. I mean, we're talking about a team that's 2-5 right now, and if they can get past some of their struggles this week against the Patriots, then we're going to have some.
So here's what we know. Here's what we typically know about the National Football League. As soon as you think a team is ready to get right, an underdog knocks them off.
Yeah.
And I'll just say the Jets are sitting there looking like, oh, okay, we'll get back on track. But you know also this thing about getting on track? The Patriots.
Yeah,
so
you better believe they are.
At the film and those things. A lot of pressure on the Jets going into this one, because, man, you lose another one. You begin to say, for who, for what? As my guy Ricky Waters would say, they got rid of Robert Saleh, who is the leader of the defense.
Yeah.
And they're sitting here on the 3-game losing streak if they don't get it done. Changes everything.
Last one here, last hot or not, and it's going to be, Bucky, in the landscape of one team, the defending Super Bowl champions. Chiefs defense. Hot. Bucky, Chiefs offense? Meh. I mean, it's hard to say not, because they're winning. They're winning. But I don't know how many times the broadcast mentioned Juju Smith-Schuster's name as it being an issue that he is out. And I'm like, what? What are we talking about? I mean, like, if that's where we're at with the Chiefs, where like Juju missing time is like a big deal, I'm like, it just that just kind of says something to me about where the Chiefs offense is. Now, obviously they're hurt without Rashee Rice. Xavier Worthy has not yet become like a consistent focal point of this offense. But Kareem Hunt keeps scoring touchdowns. Patrick Mahomes keeps doing, all the necessary things to keep this offense at least scoring enough points to where their defense, has just been dominant. And, DJ brought this point up on Monday, and I'd love to get your thought on it. He said it feels like it's time we got to start talking about the Chiefs defense in the same conversation as defenses like the Ravens back in the early 2000s, the Bucks back in the early 2000s, that led their teams to Super Bowl championships and just kind of got by on offense.
It's the conversation.
Are we there? I mean, we're kind of there.
Conversation no one wants to have, because we loved how the Chiefs were. They were so much fun.
Yeah.
When they had Tyreek Hill and they're throwing it all over the yard. Travis Kelce's getting open. They're busting the scoreboard all around the league. And they morphed right in front of our eyes into a defensive team. And you talk about those Buccaneers teams and those Ravens teams that were kind of like 3 yards in a cloud of dust, whatever they did on offense. Let's get the defense back on the field and they'll figure it out. Or better yet, maybe they're becoming like the Chicago Bears team that went to the Super Bowl against the Colts, where their best offense was their defense, because they set the offense up for prime scoring opportunities with turnovers and those things. The Chiefs defense is lights out. Steve Spagnuolo doesn't get enough credit for what he's been able to do with those guys, developing all those young players, putting them in the mix and finding a way to have success. You're right, Rhett. And here's the thing. We keep waiting for it to change, but a year and a half we've seen this. At some point, we got to call it what it is.
Yeah.
They are a defensive juggernaut and not the offensive circus that we are used to seeing.
It's crazy. It's crazy. That's hot or not for you right there, man. And it's the Chiefs. And you know what? They'll probably win a third Super Bowl, just like this. So that's the way it goes. That was this week's Hot or Not segment, brought to you by Wasabi, the world's hottest cloud storage provider. All right, so there you go. Anything else before we get out of here, Buck?
So look,
Yeah.
we're gonna add one more team to the hot or not thing, and it pains me to say this because like there's some people who they can have success and their humility is there where they just kind of nod their head and they talk about the next game and how you go about doing it. But then there's some people that don't know how to handle success, and I worry right now about some of my friends in Bloomington because they're all partied out.
Yeah.
I worry about them like just peaking too soon in the season. But I've also learned that fans and teams, they take their cues from the coach. And when you got a coach that got a little swag who say, hey, man, this is what I've always done. This is what we do. We win. Hey, Bloomington, Indiana got all I need. I don't need to go anywhere else. I'm like, oh, gosh.
It is the epicenter of the college football world right now.
I don't know if I can live with this for a decade.
Big noon kickoff.
I don't know if I can
Barstool College show last week. Game day.
I can live with this. I don't know if I can live with IU being good for the next decade. I don't know if I can do this.
Well, I got to tell you, there's going to be people calling on some of the people on the staff to try to see what the heck went on.
We got to break it up.
No.
We got to break it up. No. We got to break this up.
No, sir.
But you know what?
Sir. I'm going to come out of my own pocket if I have to.
But here's what I'm thinking, right? I'm here. I don't know. Like Coach Brown let word slip that maybe he needs to step away from team if the team can't win. And I'm just wondering if a man wouldn't like to make his way down to Carolina if it came open, as opposed to staying up there in the Midwest, kind of come.
Why
down,
leave a juggernaut? Why leave a juggernaut? Why would you leave a juggernaut?
Maybe
no need to do it.
Things are always finer. Down in Carolina,
why would you go from a premier conference in college football to whatever that other thing is over there that you guys are playing in? You know, like that's what I'm talking about. Good fun. And look, my Big Ten Network crew has the call in Bloomington this week. We got Washington IU, so gonna be back there.
Now,
yeah,
you can't be wearing all that red up under your garb.
No.
You can't.
Hey, this is
I need you to play. I need you to play it straight down the pipe.
Full disclosure, this is Tuesday, okay, as we are recording this episode of Move the Sticks podcast. And when we finish today, neutral colors for the rest of the week.
I just want to make sure.
All professional.
I don't want to hear you slip up on one of those reports.
All professional.
Us. And
hey, I've already done an IU game this year. That was Charlotte, though. That's a different game.
No problem. Different game. But now, like, a lot more eyeballs on you.
Yeah.
No we's and us.
I am nothing if not professional. Okay.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying. I don't want everyone to make out that.
No.
French.
Could never
be like we.
Right down the middle, baby. Right down the middle. Right down the middle on the broadcast. That's where it goes. All right. Fun times in college football. But college football is going into week 9. Like we're getting down to it here.
No one wants to say this. The best thing that has happened to college football is the expanded playoff.
Oh, it's going to be.
It feels like there's more energy and juice around this. And I'm not saying it's going to do for football what March Madness did for basketball, but it certainly has given a little different energy to paying attention to what's going on throughout the regular season.
Yeah, no doubt. Can't wait for it. All right, that's going to do it for us here on Move the Sticks. But, of course, catch all of our content wherever you get your Move the Sticks podcast, all of our YouTube content out there for you as well. And I'm sure DJ will be back at some point from his long slumber. Rhett, Bucky Bugs, staying with you later.